Welcome to the Israel Daily News Podcast. I'm your host, Shanna Fold, and I'm here to get you caught up quickly. I've got some top news stories for you today from Israel, and guess what? You're listening, so you're already on top of your game. Survive and thrive, people. Knowledge is the best weapon. Today is Monday, November 24th, 2025 in the Gregorian calendar, and the 4th of Kislev, 5786 in the Hebrew calendar. Now, let's get to the news. On Sunday, the Israel Defense Forces carried out a pretty big deal airstrike, which eliminated Hezbollah's second-in-command and military commander, Haitham Ali Tabtabai, in Beirut. And now the Israel Defense Forces are gearing up for a potential response from the terror group, though the Home Front Command has not changed civilian guidelines at this point. The strike targeted a hidden apartment belonging to Tabtabai, and at least 24 were wounded and have been taken to nearby hospitals. U.S. sources claim they were notified of the strikes as they were happening, despite Israeli officials' claim that the U.S. had been notified in advance. That seems to be a theme. Most of Hezbollah's leadership was eliminated during a war that raged between Israel from October 2023 and November 2024 between Israel and Lebanon, where Hezbollah is working. The U.S. brokered ceasefire, which was agreed upon in November 2024, has held for a year, although there have been some moments that rockets were fired. Almost no IDF attacks have taken place, and this operation was the first since the ceasefire. This is the fifth time the IDF has hit Beirut since the war ended. While not a founding member of Hezbollah, the commander joined Hezbollah in the 1980s and held several senior posts, including in its elite Radwan force. Even with its forces weakened, Israel remains concerned that Hezbollah may fire several rockets daily in the future. The terror group is thought to still be containing thousands of rockets and mortars from its pre-war weapons stash. Lebanon's army has said that they would work to disarm Hezbollah, but does not seem to be active in doing so. The Lebanese people buried the commander today, Monday, November 24th, in a largely attended funeral. Locals say that they saw Israeli helicopters flying overhead over above the capital. The ceremony had a military character, with the coffin carried by activists in uniform, marching with a marching band, an army marching band. Mourners chanted, "At your command, Nasrallah," who is no longer with us, which is a news story that I never got over, because it was such a big deal when the commander, the number one, the spiritual leader of Hezbollah was killed. That was huge. And in addition to shouting, "At your command, Nasrallah," they also shouted "Death to Israel" and "Death to America," by the way. The commander was killed with 4 other Hezbollah operatives, 2 buried with him, and 1 in the eastern Bekaa region, and the 4th in a village in southern Lebanon. I saw a report that said a French news outlet spoke with a Hezbollah operator who reported that the group is torn between responding with force or going the diplomatic route. On Sunday, IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir dismissed several key officers and put others on leave for their roles in the October 7th failures, based on findings of an external inquiry that found that the IDF's own investigations were inadequate and unacceptable. Defense Minister Israel Katz continued in his months-long clash with Zamir, saying that he had ordered the Defense Establishment Comptroller, Brigadier General Reservist Yair Volansky, to reevaluate the findings of this external investigation. After Zamir's round of dismissals, Katz said he is freezing all senior appointments until Volansky submits his findings on the external investigation. Meanwhile, on Saturday night, thousands gathered at Tel Aviv's Habima Square over the weekend, joined by major opposition leaders to demand an independent state commission of inquiry into the government's handling of the October 7th Hamas attacks. The rally was led by families of victims and condemned the government's plan to conduct its own internal probe. They argue that those responsible for failures should not be in charge of investigating them. Now, of course, that's a blanket statement to say that the entire government was responsible for October 7th. But you could understand why there are people that want to see an outside investigation not run by the current administration. Protesters urged investigators and potential witnesses to boycott the government-run committee, calling it a political effort to whitewash accountability. Nearby at Hostage Square, families called on the government to secure the return of 3 remaining slain hostage bodies, warning that national healing cannot begin until they are brought home. That's correct. There are still 3 bodies in Gaza that have not been returned home yet. Another body has been reportedly identified in Gaza. No word on where that has gone since that news story came out earlier today. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, also recognized by their initials, GHF, has officially ended its 5-month operation in the Gaza Strip. The organization was launched to test a new model of aid delivery, distributing supplies at militarized hubs controlled by the IDF, which was all in an effort to keep Hamas from seizing the goods. Israel hoped GHF would eventually replace traditional agencies like the UN, which experts say was being hijacked by Hamas. GHF is a U.S. aid group that was created with involvement from Israeli officials close to Prime Minister Netanyahu. But GHF became popular in the news due to controversy. There were repeated deadly incidents at its distribution points, which UN officials say led to the deaths of more than 1,000 Palestinians, which is a figure that the IDF disputes, claiming many of these incidents actually involved Hamas shooting at civilians waiting for aid, or that the IDF were firing out warning shots when people were suspiciously coming too close to IDF military personnel. Although GHF says it delivered more than 187 million meals, its capacity shrank significantly by the time the ceasefire began, and it played only a limited role in the overall flow of aid. The Times of Israel reported last month that the organization was struggling financially. With a new civilian coordination center now taking charge, GHF says its mission is complete and that international actors will adopt the model it attempted to pilot to feed hungry people and get everyone what they needed during this devastating war. Former hostage Guy Gilboa-Dalal revealed that he was sexually assaulted twice at gunpoint by one specific Hamas captor during his more than 2 years of captivity in Gaza. It came out in a televised interview. The country is buzzing about it in horror. He described being threatened with a rifle and knife to ensure his silence, saying he carried the trauma alone because he feared retaliation or further abuse if he spoke up. Gilboa-Dalal said, and I'll just read one of his horrific quotes translated into English. He started really touching me and kissing the back of my neck, kissing my back, and it was very, very frightening. I froze, and after a few minutes of him doing that, really touching me, my whole body was burning here in the back of my neck and my throat. That's the end of the quote. I can't imagine this. And after this, he says that he lived in constant fear that being separated from fellow captives would lead to repeated sexual assaults. And he said that one of the most difficult parts of this was that he couldn't discuss it with anyone because his life was on the line, and he recalls suffering alone. Beyond blatant sexual violence, he recounted severe physical abuse, humiliation, and deliberate starvation, including being paraded through Gaza as crowds beat him and being fed only once daily to the point of extreme emaciation. He credited his survival to mental resilience, imagining that he was being filmed for his family and future children, and he said that he and fellow captive Eviatar David served as each other's emotional lifeline throughout their imprisonment. Israeli prosecutors are set to charge a teenage suspect involved in a large settler-led arson attack earlier this month that torched Palestinian factories and farmland near Beit Lid and Der Sharaf. The minor, one of the 4 arrested at that scene, marks the first incident tied to the November 11th assault, which also left 4 Palestinians injured and saw settlers later clash with IDF troops. The case comes amid a sharp rise in settler violence this year, with more than 750 nationalist incidents recorded, alongside a steep drop in enforcement under National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. In response, the IDF, Shin Bet, and police have launched a joint task force to include expanded military presence, reinforced security hubs, increased surveillance, and tougher penalties such as fines and gun license revocations for Jews who attack Palestinians in this area. I want to thank all of you for your interest in Israeli affairs, Israeli politics, our world politics. I also want to thank all of you who personally finance and fund the Israel Daily News podcast with monthly contributions. You can support us with contributions by going over to our website, israeldailynews.org, and clicking on donate. The Patreon link is over there, and you can send us a monthly donation using that link. There's also an option for a one-time donation. Our organization is operational thanks to listeners and supporters like you. Thank you to Mary Ann Vollinger for her monthly support. In response for your contributions, I'll send over a handwritten thank you note to show my appreciation. Follow us on social media at israeldaily.news. We're on X, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Our page is around 40,000 followers. You can also follow my personal page at Shanna Fold. My name has 2 N's in it, and I'm very sensitive about that. A new Channel 12 poll shows growing public backing for former hostage Eli Sharabi to join the Knesset, with 76% of center-left voters calling for new blood in politics and 61% believing fresh figures could challenge the current coalition. Sharabi, who survived 491 days in Hamas captivity after being abducted from Kibbutz Be'eri, where his wife and daughters were murdered and his brother later died in captivity, has since become a leading global advocate for the return of remaining hostages, speaking to world leaders and the UN Security Council. Other emerging figures gaining traction include activist Einav Zangacher, Eyal Eshel, Eyal Waldman, a big businessman, and former minister Yishai Shai. Many lost loved ones on October 7th and have become prominent voices pushing for accountability and a state-led inquiry. All right, well, that is it for today's show. Today is Monday, November 24th, 2025. Tel Aviv has a low of 20 degrees Celsius and a high of 27 degrees. That's 68 degrees Fahrenheit for the low, going up to 81 degrees for the high. We are everywhere. Don't forget to sign up to our Israel Weekly News Wrap. The Israel Weekly News Wrap is a newsletter with the top 5 stories coming out of Israel from throughout the week, and of course with a personal note from me at the top. You can sign up for that at israeldailynews.org. Scroll down to the bottom and drop your email in. Have a great and productive day and an excellent week. Shavua Tov, everyone.